Headline for online video is all about growth, certainly in the audience consumption, in the growth of supply, definitely in the growth of advertisers' interest and investment in it. But what's more interesting is what's behind that growth with co-viewing, with the advent of tablets and iPads and devices so that people are consuming online video while they're watching television, and certainly with mobile as well, making it a more portable, personal experience. So I'd say it's beyond ready for prime time. It's at a point now where we're starting to see it influencing prime time, both in the content development as well as understanding what that experience is in the living room, watching both online and on TV.
Tell us about sort of the ecosystem of pricing and ROI.
So it's been an interesting evolution as we shifted from purely looking at online video as premium full episode players. Are there many layers and ways you can be applying online video as part of your strategy? So not only looking at it as an engagement, full episode player platform for that richer connection or maybe perhaps a more emotional connection to the consumer, but where does video fit when it comes to acquisition and DR? How might we use video ad networks as well as the mid-tier content as well as the premium content and popular content to drive home the right objective and have advertisers very involved in it?
Where is pricing? I mean, some people say that online video is too expensive and some say it should come down to be more efficient. Or do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, pricing has evolved, I think partly because the supply has certainly increased, partly because the audience now is not just thinking of premium being only TV or programming that airs, but looking at what's popular and what's personally relevant to them. And once we get to that understanding of what is personally relevant and we connect consumers that way and not worry so much about what are the impressions and tonnage, but understand what are the behaviors we can connect with instead, then it really takes pricing out of the equation. And marketers start to understand that if this drives results or this reaches a certain hard-to-reach consumer, that might be worth a different pricing.
Tell us about consumption of video over mobile devices globally and kind of what you're seeing and what opportunities are existing for brands.
So mobile is another marketplace that's complex, and I think like online video was several years ago, it's easy to get caught up on what's the platform, the technologies, ad serving, measurement, and not really stand back and say, how can we use it and start today by applying it a campaign at a time, an audience at a time to understand how they react and what their experience is and how we can improve upon that. I think it's important for us not to get caught up in too much of the fear factor of what's the right point to start, but instead start layering mobile in across all campaigns, knowing that the portability, the personal connection people have to their mobile device is very powerful, and it's an experience that we need to be understanding better for advertisers. We have to understand what is the action we're trying to drive, and that might be a passive action, not always taking an action with a click. And we're hopefully in a world now where just the clicks as the measurement is starting to become less and less the single focal point as we look at all the other ways that we can measure and aggregate that data.
What are the opportunities around branded content for brands?
There's still a lot of opportunities with branded content, but I don't think it's positioned anymore as the holy grail. There's many more opportunities also with content syndication, sponsorship, as well as creating your own bespoke video and being aligned with videos that consumers are creating as well. So it's a very rich palette, which puts less of the focus on what's the kind of hit show online, which used to be the mantra, into more what is the video content that folks are interested in and how can we fill that void. So I think there's a shift a bit in understanding how can we glean from data where there might be an absence of content around specific topics, subjects, interests, and could brands actually fill that, whether that's by creating themselves, borrowing, licensing, or building it. As important as to talk about what is the content one can create, it's equally important to talk about what's your syndication or distribution strategy for that. Because the days of expecting everyone to come and be deeply engaged with content on your site have certainly changed with the advent of more social sharing. So now it's about how do you make your content discoverable. And most of that is not only through search, the traditional routes, but really understanding how to develop a social strategy that makes your content more discoverable.
What is the value of YouTube for marketers? And, tell us your point of view on that.
So YouTube's strength has always been its audience and the aggregation of hundreds of millions of folks, which is very attractive to advertisers. What's interesting now is they have made this push not just from being the place for popular video viewing, but they're starting to understand the value of premium as well. And as they've discussed a bit in the press, they're looking at creating more of a content channel strategy as well to try and bucket content that aligns with advertisers' interests and consumers' interests as well. A bit more of a program strategy versus the free-for-all. And that's very interesting to actually have that balance of both premium content, safe, well-lit places, as well as be able to reach across the long tail and have pure aggregated audience as well.
And what's the challenge, for marketers, and how do you play in the connected world where sometimes there's ads and sometimes it's not, but it's different?
Connected TV should be seen as an opportunity for marketers and not a threat. Even though there might be that sense of could they bypass advertising, it creates a new opportunity for us to figure out how do we make those ad experiences much more interactive, much more valued, and connect with the programming to a level of more precision targeting as well. So I think what we've learned in the online video space, in the PC environment, and now the mobile will start to translate, and hopefully create a much richer, more seamless experience between programming and advertising.
So are there any, media plans or case studies or anecdotes about things that you guys have been doing with online video that you think might be instructive to where the industry is going?
I think what's most interesting is understanding online video outside of the silo of online video. Really understanding how do people interact now across devices, what is mobile consumption, as we add local data and geodata, how does that influence how we might program for this experience, how are folks interacting with tablets? And we've been doing a lot with our iPanel team and Civic Observatory to understand that interaction as well when they are actually co-viewing with television programming. And I think in the advent of more connected TVs and more of the two-way interactivity, we'll start to see some of the early learnings of online video then translate into television programming and what's happening across the bigger screen as well. So it's that interaction of the total video experience versus the traditional online video in a PC environment that's really ripe for a lot of innovation and change this year ahead. I think the shift we saw this year at the upfront was really the conversation around social and not having this separation of an online video experience being a competitor with television viewing, but understanding it can really complement it. It can grow audiences. It can continue to build fan bases even when the show is off air, like a Mad Men, for example. It continued to also be a source for creating ideas and for people to share and create more discovery beyond word of mouth. So it's been a different conversation, less again about the competition and how do you share shift from that kind of threatened perspective, and instead more of how do we use this to really enhance the broader opportunity for advertisers.